I want you to understand this before we actually talk about that and how to become mentally stronger, is that if you are not mentally strong in your sport, you will crumble, you will lose, you will be devastated. It's going to be really tough, and it will be tough. And then you'll start doubting yourself. You'll have those negative doubts, negative thoughts come in, and you'll second guess yourself. And what then this does is this then affects your level of performance, so that will drop. You'll lose motivation. You'll avoid doing the hard work. You'll avoid doing the training. And then this will actually lead to whether you really want to pursue your sports dream. So if you haven't got, your mental side of your sport figured out yet, or you haven't got a clue on how to get mentally strong, then I'm going to give you some really simple strategies today on how to do that. Welcome to the Tiffany Micah podcast. What we do here is build the strength and courage in you to accomplish your big dreams and goals in your sport. No longer will you feel limited. You won't feel you're not good enough. You won't question whether you will make it. Those doubts will disappear because you will have the competitive edge over your opponents and leave them in your wake. And the bonus is others will notice. Listen up and take notes, because I will show you exactly how to do it. Hey there, this is Tiff from the Tiffany Micah podcast, and welcome to today's episode. Now, before I begin this episode, I actually want to give out a shout out to Rebecca from Ireland. Hey Rebecca, hope you're going awesome. She is a kickboxer, and we've been chatting via message a lot over the past week or so. And I'm just really getting to know what her big dreams are for her sport and for kickboxing especially. So she trains her butt off. She's always looking for ways to improve herself, a technique, a training methods, and a mindset. And Rebecca, you know what? That's what champions do. So what I want to say to you, Rebecca, is just keep going, keep setting those goals, keep drilling, keep working on getting that edge. You are an inspiration, and you're an example of what hard work and dedication is. So keep going. So really proud of you, Rebecca. And I hope that people who know you are inspired by what you do, your work ethic, and your dedication and persistence that you're showing as a kickboxer. And you know what? I wish you everything that you want in your sport, and to become the champion that you want to become. So keep going, okay? Just keep going. So in this episode, I thought we'd work on some strategies together on how to become mentally stronger. I'm getting this question quite a bit lately. And there's plenty of strategies out there on how we can do that. And we could spend, many an hour talking about it, but, and how we could actually do that for your sport. But I want you to understand this before we actually talk about that and how to become mentally stronger, is that if you are not mentally strong in your sport, you will crumble, you will lose, you will be devastated. It's going to be really tough, and it will be tough. And then you'll start doubting yourself. You'll have those negative doubts, negative thoughts come in, and you'll second guess yourself. And what then this does is this then affects your level of performance, so that will drop. You'll lose motivation. You'll avoid doing the hard work. You'll avoid doing the training. And then this will actually lead to whether you really want to pursue your sports dream. So if you haven't got, your mental side of your sport figured out yet, or you haven't got a clue on how to get mentally strong, then I'm going to give you some really simple strategies today on how to do that. Because you know what? It's hard. It's hard work. It's tough. You're slogging it out. And sometimes you're like, well, what's the point? I can't see any changes happening. You got to keep going. You got to keep slogging it out. It's tough. It's really tough. Because what you're doing is going to be hard. What you are doing is tough. It's so tough. I know I'm saying that, but it is. It's tough. And you hear about, all these athletes who make it to the top, and they always talk about the top 1%. And do you know why they're there? They're there because they deserve that they're there because they believe that they deserve to be there. They have 100% belief in themselves. They don't question it. What they do is they keep working on getting better. That's the difference between the top 1% and the rest of the athletes out there. They believe they deserve to be there. They have 100% belief in themselves, like ultimate belief. They don't question it. They keep working on getting better. Get that into your head. So when you look at Ash Barty, for example, when she won the French Open last year, she dominated that tournament. And you know what her big breakthrough was? Like her really big breakthrough in winning that tournament? She trusted her technique. She had good, solid technique and foundations. But she really trusted every decision that she made. She trusted the way she played. And what that means, by her trusting her technique, knowing that she's got good solid foundations, good solid technique, knowing that she could trust every decision that she made, knowing that she could trust the way she played, it's because she believed in herself. Right? She had ultimate belief. That's where we want to go. We want to have ultimate belief. And it's the same way with the top, like the number one athletes in your sport. Why is it that they're so good? Because they trust and believe in themselves. They trust and believe their technique. They trust and believe their abilities. They believe they deserve to be there. They've done the hard work physically. They've done the hard work mentally. They've done the hard work nutritionally. Don't forget the nutrition side of things either. I know I talk a lot about the mental side of sport here. A lot of it is going to be physical, which will be mental as well. A lot of it's also what you put in your body. Again, that's mental as well. Anything that you do is mental. Anything. But what do the top athletes, the number one athletes in your sport? They've done the hard work physically, mentally, and nutritionally. They want to stay there, don't they? And to stay there, what do? They keep looking for the edge. They keep looking for that competitive edge. So Novak Djokovic, I'm a big fan of him. I have been from when he came out onto the circuit, when I was watching him, become the tennis player, become the athlete who he has now become. Now he's at the top. Why is he at the top? He believes in himself. Because if he didn't believe in himself, he wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be playing tennis. He wouldn't be number one in the world. And what's the difference between him and number 50 in the world? Because if you really look from a technique point of view, they all hit the ball the same. Right? They all have their strengths in their games. They're all very solid tennis players. But what's the difference between him and number 50? He has ultimate belief. He refined everything that he does, everything physically, technically, mentally, nutritionally. Right? He keeps hunting for that edge to keep him at the top. But in order for you to get to the top, what we have to do is we have to work on building your mental strength. And I've said it before, if you don't have that mental strength, you will crumble. Okay, I just wanted to get that message across. We have to build on working on you getting your mental strength, developing that. And you're like, okay, Tiff, thank you. How do I do that? How do I work on building my mental strength? Well, we're going to do some really simple strategies here, and something really simple, because if we work on foundations, I'm very much a foundational person. You get all the basics right, and then you can build from there. It's like a house. We get the foundations right, then we can build. Okay, so what we're going to do here to work on your mental strength, we're going to work on two areas. So the first one is we're going to be identifying the negative words or negative phrases that you actually use. So what I want you to do, whether you use a notebook when you listen to my episodes, or you just grab a sheet of paper, however you do this, it's fine either way. But what I want you to do is draw two columns, and I want you to have the first column on your left is I want you to make a list of the negative words or the negative phrases, the negative thoughts, the doubts, everything that comes into your mind about who you are as a person, who you are as an athlete, and also what goes on for you when you are competing. Even when you're training and you're practicing for your sport, things will come up, especially if you have no belief in you and your mental strength is not good. Okay? So what we want to do here is we want to identify what comes up for you in training, what comes up for you in competition. I know that you're not competing right now. No one in the world is competing right now because of what we're going through. But you can think about what happens when you compete. Okay? So we want to identify the negative thoughts, the doubts, the negative phrases, everything that you use. Now, I don't want you to judge yourself on this. Don't be judgmental on what comes up for you. Just get them out, okay? Just write them all down. You might find you've got a couple of pages of words or phrases, and that's okay. It's better out than staying in your head, for one. I'm very much a person of, like, get everything out of your head. Even if you've got to write it down in a notebook, get it out. Don't let it sit there, because if it sits there, it builds up. When it builds up, we explode. Sometimes we explode for no reason. We can't actually pinpoint why that actually happened. It'll be the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. So what you want to be able to do here is you want to make sure that we're getting really clear on what the negative phrases are. Okay, so here's some examples. I'm not fast enough, or I'm not quick enough. Why are you even trying? I can't do this. I'm so bad at whatever your sport is. I'm so bad at tennis. I'm so bad at kickboxing. I'm so bad at swimming. I'm so bad at skiing. I'm so bad at pole vaulting. I'm so bad at running. I'm so bad at golf. I'm so bad at whatever the sport is. Okay? Because we got to get it out. We can't keep going in that way. We can't keep operating like that. Because what happens is if you have these negative thoughts, what it then leads to is negative feelings. And what that then leads to is negative actions. What that leads to then is negative results. So if you think that you're bad at something, or you're not quick enough, or you're not good enough, this is what happens, is you feel down, you'll feel sad, you'll feel depressed, you'll feel lethargic, you'll have poor energy. That's how you'll feel, right? Then the actions that you do will be that you won't perform as well. You'll perform badly. You'll have no energy. You'll be tired. And then what happens? You'll get bad results. You'll lose, right? You'll lose. Simple. And then you'll say, see, told you you're hopeless, told you suck, told you you're useless. And I've been down this road. I'll tell you, I've been down this road, and it is not a good place to be in. And I did that with my tennis, and there's one specific match that stands out for me, and I actually share this in my book, Focus, How to Reach Your Potential in Sport, Business and Life. And I talk about a particular match that I played when I was at my worst mentally, right? Negative thoughts. I got on the court. Now, I played it on a clay court. Now, I grew up playing on clay, and I played this match against this. She was a pro tennis player at the time. I was still on the cusp. And I played a match against her playing on clay. I grew up on clay. I struggled on clay that day. Couldn't get my footing right at all. Slipped and slided all over the place. I kept telling myself that I was hopeless. I kept telling myself I was useless. I kept telling myself I was an embarrassment. I kept telling myself that those people over there watching me would think that I was a beginner. I kept telling myself I was a beginner. I kept telling myself I'll never beat this woman because she's a pro and I'm not. I kept telling myself that I couldn't hit the ball in the court. I kept telling myself I sucked at my serving. I kept telling myself I couldn't hit a forehand to save my life. I kept telling myself that I would hit the ball out. I kept telling myself that I couldn't rally. So guess what happened? All of that came true. We even changed ends. I had got smashed in the first set, 6-love. Lost the next game, and I was down 1-love. We swapped ends because you change every odd game. Swapped ends. I went up and I went to serve again. This is how out of it I was. This is how I was in such a bad mental place, right? I was so absorbed in how I was feeling, all these negative thoughts that were running through my mind and my body. Even physically, I couldn't move properly. Like I said, I slipped and slided all over the place. I couldn't move. I felt heavy and lethargic. So here I am up at the baseline, up the other end of the court, got smashed in the first set, 6-love, lost the next game, 1-love. I served that game. I went up to the baseline to serve another game. That's how out of it I was. That is bored deep into my mind of what was going on in that time. Now, this was 30 years ago that this happened. I remember it clearly because of how it made me feel, right? And she said to me, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm serving." She said, "You just served the last game." Do you know what that did for me then? I spiraled even worse out of control. How embarrassing. I can't even keep track of the score. That's how bad it was. I couldn't even keep track of the score because I was so deep into how bad I was feeling, about how bad I was playing, about all the negative thoughts were running through my head. And when I lost that match, right, I lost it. How could I not? I couldn't win it, could I, with that attitude? I went back behind the clubhouse and bawled my eyes out. Absolutely bawled. I was absolutely devastated. And I didn't think that I would ever have any hope, because if I'm going to perform like that, I'm never going to get anywhere, right? Negative thoughts, negative feelings, negative actions, negative results. That's what happened. Terrible things I was saying to myself, but I believed it because I had repeated it so much, right? Created those negative feelings. Oh, well, can't move, can't do this, can't do that. Yep, see, I told you. Got absolutely smashed. Negative result, lost, devastated, bawled my eyes out. Never thought from that point on, that made a decision in my life. Not that I gave up on tennis after that match, but I had made a decision that I was never going to make it, no matter how hard I tried. I didn't make that decision consciously. I made that decision subconsciously. Wasn't aware of it at the time. Discovered that later on. Right? I only had another year of training my guts out to try and turn things around, but thinking that I had to train harder. This is the point I want to make to you now. Thinking that I had to train harder was going to make the difference. And I did. I lost so much weight. I was like a greyhound. I was so fit. I gave extra hours into training. So I was training in a squad at an academy. I gave extra hours of training. I would do an extra 4 hours training a day, 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon, to try and turn things around. I didn't know it was that I was mentally weak and that skill was lacking. I just thought I had to work harder. And that's what I want to get the point across to you. It's not about working harder. You can keep working hard. You can keep training hard. But if you don't believe that you can do it, you're not going to get there. Because that will be the thing that will always hold you back. So that's why I want to emphasize to you that you have got to get this negative language out of your head. You have got to identify what this negative language is. Because it crippled me. And it took me 25 years to come to terms with it. Because I was devastated for 25 years after that. That I gave up on me, I gave up on my dream. And I gave up on my dream, and then I didn't realize how much I gave up on me. I thought I was a failure after that. I thought I would never make it in life because my ultimate dream, I gave up on it. Therefore, I was a failure, right? And I don't want that to happen to you. It doesn't have to happen to you. I don't think that I'm a failure now. I've got a lot to share and have done, a lot of great things from that point on. But I had to get to work on me. I had to change the way that I was thinking. Because if you keep going down this path of negative thoughts and you go through this process of negative results, you're going to attract those types of people into your life as well. And I can guarantee that that will happen because that happened to me. I thought I was a failure. I thought I was useless. I thought I was not good at anything. And I attracted the wrong people into my life. Mentally cruel people. But it was okay. I allowed that to happen because I would give myself a mental bashing every single day before I started the day and kept reminding myself every single day how bad I was at everything. And it was okay for someone else to speak to me that way. It was okay for someone else to tell me that, I had no hope. It was okay for someone else to tell me that I was useless. It was okay for someone else to treat me as a second-class citizen because I treated myself that way. And this is why I'm on this mission to help you become the athlete that you want to become, because I don't want you to go down that path. If I had known all of this when I was your age, I would have been number one in the world, right? I'm going to be number one in the world in something else now. But don't fall into this trap of thinking that you don't work on the mental side of your sport, or you don't work on the mental side of you. Because it's not just your sport that you'll be working on, it'll be you. I went and did a personal development program. I know I'm going a little bit off track, but I want to share this with you. I went and did a personal development program to help me when I took up golf, to help me not let my tennis demons come back and haunt me. And you know what I discovered? I discovered so much more about me as a person, of how I operated, of how I thought. That's why I didn't make it as a tennis player. Because of all this negativity that I had for me, all this verbal negative tongue bashing that I used to give myself every day. So we're not going to go down that path, are we? No, we're not. So what we want to do is, this first step is get all these negative thoughts and feelings out. Okay? It is so important that you get this out of you. Get it out, write it down, because then I'm going to show you what the next step is. Okay? Whew, that's pretty heavy for me to share that with you. So I hope you, I just hope you learn from that. Okay? It's so important, because those negative words, if you say them over and over again, you will believe it's true, because I did. And I started from a young age telling myself, and I think it stemmed from around about, I can remember was around about 13. You know, body was changing, not adapting well to, to everything that was going on around me. And I had people, adults, not peers, adults were telling me that I was never going to make it. It wasn't my parents. My parents were incredibly supportive, but it was other people, and they would niggle at me all the time. That's a terrible thing for an adult to say to a child or a teenager. Disgraceful behavior, right? But that's when it all started, because I believed them, because that was true. They're an adult. They know more than me, right? So therefore, that must be true. So I started believing that was true. So I started to say that to me too. So we want to make sure that we're building your strength. We've got to get these negative words, negative phrases out of your head. Okay? Put it on paper. So make sure you go through that, make that big list. Now, number 2, the second step. What we want to do, so you've written all of that down in that column on that left-hand side. What we want to do now is we want to rewrite, I call this your new belief language. And what we want to do is we want to rephrase that negative phrase into new belief language. And what we're going to do here is we're going to rewire your thinking into that new belief language, aren't we? Because we could go really deep into why you're using the words you're using, like the negative ones. And I've just starting to establish this, the Get Focused Academy. And I'll talk about that in that. But what we want to do here for you, in order for you to create and become the athlete you want to become, we've got to give you that bulletproof mentality. And that's what we develop in the Get Focused Academy. But here in this episode, I'm not going to dig too deep into why all these words are coming up and why you are saying what you're saying to yourself. I'm just saying that what we're going to do is rewire your thinking from those negative phrases into that new belief language. Because what we can do here right now is we can work on a practical solution. Okay? So all of those negative phrases that you've written down, next to them, like in the next column opposite, that'll be on the right-hand side. What I want you to do is I want you to write a positive phrase. This is your new belief language. So I'm going to give you an example. So if you said something like, I am not fast enough, you could write something simple like, I am fast. But at the moment, especially if you're quite negative in the way in which you speak to yourself, that little voice in your head will say, well, no, you're not. You're not fast. Who do you think you are? You can't do this. You'll never be fast, right? So there'll still be that negativity still coming in, and and what we want to do here is we want to get you to the point that you will say that I'm fast and believe it, but at the moment you may not. So what we can do is we can rephrase it to something like this. So the negative phrase that you're using at the moment is I'm not fast. We could say something like this: I work on getting faster every day, or I am improving my quickness every day, or I work on getting faster every time I train. Because what happens if you say that I'm working on it, or I'm improving it, or I'm getting faster each day, that little voice in your head can accept it better, and it won't argue with you as much. It may still argue with you, but what you've got to keep doing is overriding it and saying, you know what? I am doing this. I am improving my quickness every day, or I'm working on getting faster every time I train. And it's hard, the thing is I get people say to me, oh, well, I'll just block out those negative words and hope they go away. Well, if you haven't trained yourself how to do that, then you're not going to be able to block them out, because it's going to wear you down, because that's the pattern that you're in. So we want to make sure that we create a new pattern for you, new language, right? New belief language. And it's all in the positive state. It's all in you working on improving you. So you want to understand that, what we're doing here is we're going through a process, and that's how it works. It's a process. It's like, I'll share it this way. It's like if you want to be a world champion or an Olympic champion in your sport, and you say, let's say today's Thursday, right? And you say, today, Thursday, I'm going to be world champion, or I'm going to be Olympic champion. Now, tomorrow, when you wake up after you've had a good night's sleep, you're not going to be world champion or the Olympic champion the next day, are you? It doesn't work like that, does it? It's a process. So by making you mentally stronger, we have to go through a process. So the first process of what we've got to do here is we've got to identify every single negative word that you use. Everything, okay? Everything. Then the second step in the process, we have to rephrase new words. We have to rephrase new phrases. That's your new belief language. Does that make sense? I'm sure you're saying, yes, Tiff, it does make sense, and I'm going to go and work on that. Of course you are. I'll give you one more example. I'll just share this story with you quickly. It's not about me. It's about a lady I used to teach golf to. Now, this not only happens with younger athletes, this happens with older women as well, because I have taught younger athletes. I've taught every age group. So this particular lady, she was learning to play golf, and every single time, like, work ethic was great. She'd come to the clinics each week. She'd try her heart out. She'd work really hard on getting the technique right. She'd go and play out on the course. I'd go and watch her play. But every time, this happened for 2 years, every single week, she would be in tears. She would be telling me how crap she is. She'd be telling me what a bad player she is. She'd be telling me how she could never get this. The language in the way she spoke to herself was appalling. And this was a woman over 60, right? Over 60, speaking to herself this way. And she thought it was okay to speak to herself like that. And I said, Does your husband speak to you like that? She said, no. I said, well, why is it okay for you to speak to yourself like that if you wouldn't let anyone else speak to you that way? She didn't actually realise how negative she was. She didn't realise how much she was putting herself down. That was what was holding her back. So this went on for 2 years. Crying, when I'd go and talk to her, helping her work through and build confidence in how she operated each time I saw her, building new belief language in her. After 2 years, I remember watching her play a particular hole on this golf course where I used to work at. She was amazing. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. She teed off, hit the most perfect shot. Second shot, the most perfect shot. Third shot, the most perfect shot. For her, right? For her. The most perfect shot. Bang, next shot onto the green. It was wonderful to watch. I was watching that from afar, right? I drove up to her in the golf cart and I said, "Oh, what's happened? That's amazing. I'm so proud of you, but what's happened? What's happened to you for this to happen?" Because it was amazing. It was like a complete turnaround. Now, I'll remind you, it took 2 years for this to happen, right? And she said, "I decided to change my attitude." Now, it was 2 years of me talking to her about the language in which she spoke to her. So she would just say, yeah, but she didn't believe in herself. Those negative phrases that she would keep repeating to herself was overriding her, and it was taking over her. One day she made the decision to change that language. She changed that language, and that was the result. She started to become a better golfer. Instant, like it was just like that. But it was 2 years in the making. I don't want this to be 2 years in the making for you. We want to turn this around now. Yes, it's going to be a process. Yes, it's going to take time, and it's going to be, some of it's going to be trial and error, and that is okay. Accept that. But you can do this. You can accomplish what you want to accomplish, but it's all in your head. It is all in your head. So what is it that you have to do now? Before I get off on track again. What is it that you have to do now? You have to do two things. The first thing, number one, is make a list of all the negative words, negative phrases that you use. The second thing that you have to do is rewrite new belief language. Simple, isn't it? So you got some work to do. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I'd love it if you could share with me what you like best about what you heard today. If you've got friends that you know that would benefit from these episodes, please share them with them, because we want to build this, we want to build it into the successful athlete community, don't we? We want to be successful athletes. So let's look at it that way. We're going to be the successful athlete community. So let's get to it. Now, before you go, have you signed up yet for the Successful Athlete Masterclass? Because it is free. So what we look at in the Successful Athlete Masterclass is we look at what is holding you back in your sport. We look at what skills you will need to succeed in your sport. We look at how to craft a plan to accomplish your sports goals. So if you have not yet signed up for that, make sure that you do. Go to tiffanymica.com/Sam. That's SAM. And I look forward to seeing you there. So dream big, believe in you, go after your dreams, have an awesome day, take care, and talk soon.